Hello and welcome to day 18? Yeah, I've got it just here. What is it? Day 19. That's the one. Welcome to day 19 of this animation. And today we're doing the characterful animation for Asterix from the French comic, well, French/Belgian comic Asterix and Obelix. So you'll see just there that I had a bunch of these kind of like sketches or ideas done. And these are basically keyframes, so I've just planned out what the emotion's going to look like as a whole. And now I'm going in and making the keyframes. So I really loved this week. And doing the Asterix character, he's one of my favorite comics. I used to have them read to me all the time when I was a kid. And I really just loved it. I did Obelix for Toontober last year, which I really loved. And this year, I didn't do Toontober this year because it was, well, to be honest, I was doing this instead, so I kind of decided this was what I'd do. But I really liked it. And I recommend if anybody wants to do an animation challenge to check it out. You can find them on Instagram at Toontober or what have you. And it's ran by very lovely people, so I think. Plus, there's not really many animation challenges. The problem with animation is it's a very slow, methodical kind of art medium. You know, it's not like a sketch which you can, or like a drawing which you can do in a day. There's a level of, to even get the most basic degree of movement and motion you need to follow through with. But today we're doing, but yeah, enough of that. Personally, I'd love to see people looking for animation challenge ideas. 12 principles of Christmas animation. And just doing the 12 principles of animation over Christmas, you know, like that. Which I might do, I'm not sure. It's only 12 animations, and to be honest, they're very fun. So, what have I got to say about Asterix? Yeah, I really like this idea. Basically, when this week began, I knew that I was going to do him drinking the magic potion at some point, because I've seen it in countless times, and I thought it's just, you know, she's got to be, you know, it's like if you do animation of Michael Jackson, you've got to do the moonwalk. They're just things that you just kind of realize. But I really love this. I thought it was really fun. And I wanted to talk about animation today as a whole. So as you can see here, I'm drawing every single frame and drawing everything in Kamiya Twitch, which is good. And if you're really good at drawing a character and you spend ages on it, you can create theoretically anything. You know, you could, if you were good enough to draw the Mona Lisa over and over again, you could draw the Mona Lisa moving. So there's, you know, but animation nowadays, primarily this sort of medium is not that present anymore. We see more puppet motion and, well, puppeteering and rigging and less frame by frame, more symbols you'd see in 2D. There are still there is still that hand-drawn look to a lot of animations, but you don't see it as much. Primarily because you don't. For starters, it's quicker to do puppet kind of animation, but also you don't really see much benefit from this style of drawing every single frame. When people rotoscope, which is when they take live action footage and just draw every single frame over it, you don't really see the difference of, well, it kind of lacks a bit of charm. It looks quite alien, to be honest. So here it doesn't look alien, but it looks I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But basically, the reason people do puppet animation is because it's a lot quicker, a lot easier, and that's realistically why they do it. Whilst there's no, it doesn't feel that doing this sort of animation, this sort of drawing every single frame, the benefits of it don't really become apparent. But if everybody stops doing it, then it will never become apparent. So there is that. But what are the benefits to this? Well, theoretically, you can do anything. The thing with symbols animation is it is limited in the way it's done. So it's pretty good for storytelling and things like that, or shows, because you have a lot of scenes that are storyboarded where it'll just be character is talking to other characters. So they'll kind of just lock in a pose or like have very subtle movements. And, the mouth is moving the same sort of way. Which is fine. But the issue starts becoming when you try to do more complex things with camera work, things with trickery, but people don't really like seeing that because they don't. Animation's quite a visual medium as it is, you're always looking at it or else you miss a lot of the bigger details. So people don't really like the camera work. Some big examples of hand-drawn animation that wouldn't really work in sort of puppet animation would be dancing's quite a big one. Especially if you're moving around the place. If it's quite a stagnant dance, then it's fine, but it's like things like Fantasia, something like that, where it's more to the beat and the characters are moving. That wouldn't really work with the puppet animation because it would look quite stiff and not flow as nice. Another example would be probably the Looney Tunes or the Tom and Jerry stuff, where the volumes are constantly shifting because people are getting punched or stuff like that. Or the characters having a tree fall on them and they just, I don't know, get turned into a nail. They don't really, they can't really be done in puppet things because they're going to be basically breaking the puppet every single second, or the character. Anime also is another genre that uses the hand-drawn aspect of it because it focuses more on keyframe work. So it's not really, you can puppet it, but it's already locking to a certain phrase, and then the image is already there in the manga or the comic, so they just copy that, really. So it doesn't really make sense to make a puppet for something that they're going to be changing all the time. Plus, they have very dynamic angles, which, as we've expressed before, is not great. Basically, 3 dimensions is the reason why people don't use puppets for everything. It's hard to capture the 3rd dimension in a puppet because it's 2 dimensions. But you can do. Right, so there's my rant about animation kind of out of the way. Let's talk about Asterix here. So the motion's quite simple. He drinks the potion and then he kind of zips into all these different poses and then shoots off to the top of the screen. If I did it again, I would probably make the drinking motion more fluid. So kind of like lean them back more, make it seem like he's definitely like gulping it. And because I've got him quite a stiff pose with his legs as far as. And I probably also move the free arm around a lot, like kind of clench it into a fist and then swing it around into an arc to wipe his face. I think that would probably be quite nice. What else can we do? The problem is the motion itself of the zipping around motion, which you're constantly shifting images. I like it and I like the idea of it, but I feel like it would have benefited more from, I think, more unique poses and more better keyframe work, so just like more contortion of the body and then staying on those frames would have definitely benefited from it. yeah, I think that's probably something I'd work on. But I like how this one came out, actually. I thought this was pretty good. I would say Asterix has been one of my favourite characters to do in this sort of 8 weeks challenge. I think if I did this again, I'd love to actually. Oh, maybe I'll do it again. I don't know. But I think I'd spend a while doing all the planning of everything so that I could just dive into the animation. Like I'd plan out. I'd probably do really. I'd spend a day or two on the keyframes of a certain animation and just have everything kind of planned, so that I can just show what it's like to have everything planned out, as opposed to jumping it raw. But it was a very fun experiment. I think when you're doing animation, especially hand drawn frame by frame, the biggest thing to work on constantly if you want to improve is just drawing the character over and over and over again. And finding things that are unique about them, finding ways you can break them but still make them them. If that makes any sense. So what you can do in the character that you've never seen before, or you didn't think was possible, and finding out how it would be possible. Really jumping into the mindset of the character. I don't know if I probably did mention, this is all done on OpenToonz, which is a completely free animation program, and if anybody wants to jump in, just go to the website or just type it into Google. There you go, it'll be right there. Wait. Right, so, let's have a think. So I really struggled with this animation in the first day, I think. And I went away and did a bunch of research and sketched out a few Asterix characters, and then I definitely improved. One of the biggest helps was 2 videos I saw. One was from actually the guy who created the character, Albert Uderzo. It was like how he draws Asterix and Obelix, or just like a showcase of how he does it. And another one was this YouTube video of just like how to draw Asterix sort of thing. And I watched about 4 minutes of that one. I think it was like a 28-minute video, but I watched about 4 minutes of it just to see what he was looking for. And then I got it, and that was it. It was primarily just about the coloring and things like that, so it wasn't really that useful. But those 2 videos really helped me because they both showed me what was the main focus of this character. And it's very much like if I said to somebody, draw Mickey Mouse, they would draw a ball for a head and then they draw the ears. You know, those 2 are the next thing. Those ears are the things that they focus on next. So for Asterix, it's you draw the ball of the head and then you draw the nose, and you make sure that you get that right. And I've just realised that I've edited my video slightly wrong in this program. So I'm going to do some live editing whilst I'm there. Whilst I'm doing that, I've not realised that. Oh. Sorry about that. Position settings. Yeah, I cut out about 8 minutes of footage. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about that. So not my bad. So where are we at then? We're at 14 minutes and well, basically 15. Okay, we're at the part where he's shooting up. Yeah, but in seeing somebody else actually create it and what they were looking for first really helped because of with the whole going for the basically the way it was constructed from what I could see was nose, mustache, ears, well eyes or ears, and then top of the head. So it's very interesting. Normally we're taught well, normally yeah. Oh, there it is. It's a little playback. Normally in animation you're taught to focus on the basic shapes, trying to get all the just basic volumes down. So doing things like circles for the head and things like that. The kind of Looney Tunes approach is pretty standardized for a lot of Western animation. I'm in the center, accounting Asia as East, which they call themselves that, and America as West, which they call themselves that. Then I guess Europe would be Central, right? Or Africa, but it's the same sort of latitude or longitude. One or two. No, it's the same. But there you go. So yeah, I would say that is conventionally the way to animate is by focusing on getting those basic shapes and those basic proportions, and then going from there, which is true. But for the comics industry with this, they sort of focus on. Well, from what I could tell from this, I don't know if every comic's the same. It's focusing on getting a basic sketch of what everything's going to look like, mixing that around, shrinking things, drawing things, what have you. Good keyframes. And then just going straight in with details because they have a basic construction already of how they make this character. So they sort of make their own rules of how you create that character. It's very interesting. I think Asterix Now is a great example if you ever watch how Uderzo draws, or what's another character? Jeff Smith's Bone, I would say, probably. Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes, they do it. If you ever look at like how they draw them and things like that, you don't really see that whole like draw a circle sort of thing like that. You just see like, oh, I draw them. Like if you ever see them draw, if you ever read a book on how they draw them, they tell you a different way than what they actually do. Like I believe Garfield, the way the guy draws it is he draws the eyes, and then the face, and then he does everything else. So they sort of do everything in relation to one another because they're so used to how the character's looking. You know, the eyebrows here, the nose is here, what have you. This is my third video edit of the day. Pretty nice one. I don't know why I'm releasing these if nobody watches them, because, I don't know. Maybe it's just for me. Pretty nice here, isn't it? I did like this idea of the growing hands sort of shooting out and things like that. Very, very elastic, very natural. Wish I did it better. Adding that sort of skinnying of the arms, like all the mass is shifting. There's a big call on YouTube for animators. Well, not a big call, but there's a big movement in animators on YouTube where they'll draw like a character or a representation of themselves, and they'll voice the whole thing, and then they'll have like 9 different poses that they go through for the animation, things like that. And they're very good poses, and people say it's completely animated, but it's more of an animatic than it is an animation. But people find it fully animated, so I don't overly know, because I feel like it takes away from people who actually draw every single frame and try really hard. You know? I think those people who draw about 8 frames of the character and then just say, hey, look, it's completely animated. I don't know who's worse in that situation, the people doing it or the people who are saying enabling it. I don't know, but if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. That's really, you can't really argue with it, can you? You can't say like, oh, it's not true animation, I hate it, because if you like it, how can you possibly say you hate it? If people are looking for laptop recommendations, do not get the Dell XPS 15, because this fucking panel refresh shit, basically, it has some smart way of refreshing the screen so it's crisper and things like that, but it always breaks, and then it always just freezes the screen. So this recording, I've had to close my laptop and then open it up again 3 times. Every single time. And I'm someone who plays video games on the weekends. Well, occasionally. Well, most of the time. So whenever I'm playing a video game, if I'm like in the heat of moments, I don't play online games anymore. If I'm in the heat of a moment or something like that, screen froze. What do you have to do? Close it, open it up again. I'm dead. Shocker. It gets really annoying. So, yeah. Don't recommend it. I wanted to get the thing is I found the perfect laptop for me after I bought this laptop. Like a couple months after laptop, and I couldn't return it. I was like, oh, fuck. It's the one I kind of envision. I really like the look of is the Framework laptop. It's a modular design. Personally, I think modular electronics are going to be a big thing in the future, because I think companies will probably strive for less consumerist waste in the idea of a full-on project and more keeping a user integrated in their system with modular design. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have an iPhone 43 or something like that in the future, and you're like, oh, my battery kind of sucks or something like that. You could swap out the battery or something like that. They make it very simple. They probably have some connector on the back, and then you clip it in, and there you go. Got a whole new battery. And I think it's probably going to be quite a big thing. That's my thought process anyway, my prediction, because I think they probably want to move away more so in the future from people buying everything whole cloth. I just think it's a great idea because, take for example me, for instance, like I do animation, and then I'll do editing, and I'll do gaming, all on the same laptop. But I always have to those all have very different needs. So, for example, gaming requires more of a, not really RAM, I'd say, but more sort of CPU and GPU statistics, whilst editing and animation requires more RAM. Rendering requires all of it, all the processing. So to be able to switch out, I know it probably wouldn't be switching out that, but you know. to be able to switch out storage would be quite nice, especially with games, because games are huge and video files are huge, and you don't really want either of those corrupted. But I could also put entire programs and systems onto a huge hard drive and then just plug it in, and there you go, that's my animation hard drive. And then just, if I have the shortcuts mapped out on the desktop, oh, that'd be so good. And it's like, oh, here's my, basically all my animation on this tiny computer, this tiny cartridge. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, so the Framework laptop, it's also an independent company that promotes customization for its, as opposed to other companies that basically hardwire everything so you can't. You ever have an issue? It's like, well, you take it to us and pay £200, or you don't get your warranty. Like, great. Well, I've got about a minute or two left, so what else can I rant about? I should probably talk about Asterix and Obelix. Well, we're coming up to near the end of this. Zipping around's been very fun. I thoroughly enjoyed sort of the last frame. It did have a bit of a stutter to it in the way it kind of holds in the air, but I think it's gone pretty good. I think I should have made the muscles huge. I think, looking back on it, I should have given him like huge biceps, huge pectorals that overshadow his nose. You can't even see his face anymore. I don't give him frog flippers at this point, to be honest. I think the volume's a bit lost because he was standing on the ground at the start of this, and now his legs are shooting above the ground. And I can't say like he flew up a bit because the canteen's right there. But it definitely is. I should have focused more on the volumes because that's just the volumes getting up. Because he shouldn't be that much taller than when in the first frame when he's standing. But we've approached the end of this, so I hope you enjoy what you've seen. I really enjoyed doing today, and I'll enjoy tomorrow. So I hope you enjoyed this. Right. Well, have a nice day, and stick around for the final animation. Goodbye.